Praise be to Jesus Christ and welcome to Catholic Forum. I'm your host, Deacon Jim Thorndale. I'd like to welcome all those who are joining us on public TV and those who might be joining us on podcast. Tonight we have an interesting conversation. It's really going to the heart of our very Catholic understanding of marriage. And it really is an understanding of finding our way back into a sacramental marriage. And what this entails is really an understanding of bringing Catholics into a true understanding of reuniting with the Church in a sacrament of marriage. And tonight I want to welcome my guests who are here tonight. I want to welcome Mark Mann for being here, Felicia, and Keith Steinwick. Steinwick, thanks for being here. You know, this is an interesting conversation because we know that in our Catholic Church, there's a lot of people out there who are hurting from a first marriage. And it's really, tonight we're going to have this understanding of finding a way back into that sacramental life again. So first of all, I'd like to have you, I know there's a program called Cana 2, correct?
Yes.
How long have you been involved with that, Mark?
I've been in the office for 15 years in the diocese, helping to coordinate marriage preparation and enrichment. Cana 2 has been a key program that we've coordinated over 30 years now in the diocese.
How long have you been with them, Felicia?
We have been facilitators now for at least 10 years. I don't know beyond that.
11 years.
Yeah.
And you're finding it a challenge, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's not a challenge at all.
Yes.
It's very enjoyable.
Fun.
Wonderful.
We have a good time.
Give me a little background. All three of you, kind of give me some background on what it is, this Cana 2, and what it means to the people who are coming to these conferences. Anyone can start.
Cana 2 is, well, it's a program. It's a one-day session. It's a requirement to get remarried in the Catholic Church. And basically just try to give people some tools to enrich their marriage and you know, help them.
And these are at least one of the people coming, or if there's two people, one of them at least had been married before, prior marriage?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's for Cana 2, yep.
Okay.
And that might be either through a dissolution of a previous marriage that ended maybe in a civil divorce, or it might have the marriage ended because of death of a spouse.
Okay. So
And now,
different.
and now the person or both people are coming. They've met each other, they've fallen in love, and they're seeking to be married, and are coming to the church to ask for marriage.
Oh, that's
and so
wonderful.
Cana 2 is a key program among the steps of preparing for marriage.
Yes. So, what got you into that? Let me ask Felicia, what got you into this program? What got you started in this?
Well, we did it when we first got married, of course, because it is a requirement. It's necessary, one-day retreat.
Now, was one of you had been married before?
Yes, I was previously married.
Okay.
Yeah, been divorced. And got my marriage annulled. Met Felicia and wanted to get remarried in the Catholic Church. And
So you had attended this program?
We had attended Cana 2. We weren't obviously facilitators at the time, but we went through the program and
We loved it.
wealth of information, and it was quite useful.
Yeah. Now, I found your story interesting, Keith, because you're a convert to the Catholic faith.
Yes.
And so you had to embrace this understanding of a decree of nullity.
Yes.
Was that difficult for you?
Yes. No, not really. I guess it was, I just knew it was that's how things were done, you know, in the Catholic faith.
So you lovingly did it for your wife?
Actually, as soon as I got divorced, I did it.
Okay.
Before even knowing, you know, I was going to get remarried. I just, with the anticipation that eventually I would.
Okay. So here you are, students for the day. How did you become facilitators?
The facilitators also went to our parish, and we were friends with them, or became friends with them after the retreat. And then Chris's husband unexpectedly passed away, and then she came to us pretty much right away and asked us if we would step in and facilitate. Which we did. Mark's given us a lot of direction, and we just go forward and.
You know, you really stepped out in the spirit to do that.
We
obviously,
did.
because it was a great challenge for you to bite that off at one time after going through that program.
It was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, we had never done anything like that, and you know, and our involvement in the parish really wasn't at that level, I guess, at that time.
But it really has become your ministry.
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for 10 years, it's been two sessions
and a great
year.
gift to the diocese.
Absolutely. How did you get involved in it, Mark?
As part of my role as the Director of Family, Youth, and Young Adult Ministry for the Diocese of Grand Rapids.
You've been in it 15 years and you've seen it change and metamorphose and grow?
I have. Although the basic blocks of the day-long program have remained the same with the topics that we cover.
Okay.
But I also would need to say that I also was a participant myself.
Okay.
At one time.
Okay.
Having been in a previous marriage, and now it was a second marriage for me, first marriage for now my wife.
Okay.
And we both participated in the day with Keith and Felicia facilitating and the different speakers that we bring in.
Wonderful. You know, I know that a lot of people probably come with some trepidation or some fear or resentment of not wanting to be there. But I would suspect that through this journey of this day, the amount of information you give them and the quality of the information must really put them at ease.
Yeah, it's a lot to absorb. We start at 8 and adjourn around 3:30 or so, but we have some pretty good speakers, very good speakers.
Okay.
Dr. Larry Dugan does our communication.
He's the first out of the box, and he hooks them.
Gets them right there.
Oh, and then they
the tone for the day.
Yes, and everyone has fun, and they realize it's an interactive thing. It's not a lecture, and it's just, and there's a lot of banter, and it's just fun.
Well, give me the idea of a typical day, what it would look like, because people listening, this could be an enticement for them to really take that step that they've been reluctant to take for a long time because they just didn't feel that they wanted to go through the necessity of what the church asks them to do lovingly. So what would a day look like?
It starts, as we mentioned, with Dr. Larry Dugan talking about communications and intimacy.
Okay.
And he uses the mnemonic device of the vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y,
okay.
to talk about affection and intimacy and how to keep that alive in your marriage.
Okay.
And then we have Chris Fossey, who is a MSW, and she talks about step parenting.
Okay.
And the role of, and that's not always typical, but it is typical most of the time for a lot of people entering into a second marriage, that it's also this life of marriage is going to entail children from a previous union.
Yeah, and that's tough.
And it is.
It
can be,
Yeah, it's certainly not for wimps.
Yeah,
as one therapist has
put it. That is absolutely the truth.
Right.
And then we have a piece on finances, and usually couples have a lot of questions about that because both of them, have had their own previous handling of how they've handled finances.
Built up their own resources and everything else like that.
And, and then we end the day with, typically it's been Deacon Mike and his wife Nyan Dorden talking about the spirituality and sacrament of marriage.
Good, wonderful. And so you help coordinate all that and put this together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, which is a piece of cake.
Well, it's behind the scenes that are the toughest, putting it all together. Typically, how many people would come to a day like this? Would there be any?
Oh, we've had up to 12 couples.
12 couples, 20. We've had 15, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's typically intimate setting where 20 to 30 people spending the day together on retreat, and they all have something in common.
Yes.
And everybody has a story.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, they all have a story to tell. So, as these couples gather, I would imagine it's like any other retreat. You might see some worry and some doubt, and maybe they're not quite as or shouldn't be. They're not sharing right at that time because they're nervous about what is going to transpire. But as this day goes on, and it sounds like your speakers really bring this to a forefront and make it a relaxing day. Do the couples seem to change and gravitate into this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the morning social hour where we have our coffee and donuts and
get
rolls or fruit. And break the ice a little bit. And then I'd say halfway into Dr. Larry's his speech that everyone is just so taken with him, and they feel that they can cajole him.
Yeah.
And
No one gets away unseen.
no,
Dr. Larry.
he picks on them. If they're
He's
quiet, he goes
very
right at them.
interactive.
So
Very interactive.
because he
so.
pulls people out of the shout.
So he
and
engages them.
Oh, yeah.
He
He's enjoying this
encourages.
conversation.
Yes.
And he's
You know,
very energetic.
I can see one of the real topics of that would be, and you hit on it, is a second marriage where there's children involved.
Yes.
And I would imagine you probably hear, I won't say hard luck stories, but you probably hear a lot of stories of people having a hard time connecting to another person's child, really to get into that intimacy with them. And that's something they have to learn to do. Have you encountered that? Do they talk about that
Absolutely.
in
Yeah,
depth?
Chris Fossey does a great job with interacting with them. She's been down that road as well. She was on her in her second.
Yeah,
So
all
they're
of our
marriage and-
speakers.
Yeah, all there.
They not only bring the expertise of their background or credentials,
Right.
like Dr. Larry Dugan's psychologist, psychiatrist, I never remember which, but he has that, he's doctor of psychiatry,
Right.
and he's in a second marriage. They all
Okay.
bring their own lived experience of being in a
That's
second
important, yeah.
marriage.
Yes.
So they really relate with the people that are coming in. It's not just a lot of talk about, this is what you might be doing. They even
Okay.
can share their own stories,
Okay.
which is really a blessing for the people that come.
Are the couples open to sharing their journeys from the past?
Most
Is that
of-
something they talk about much,
Most
about
of them
what
are,
got them into the situation they're in, or why they're there for a second marriage?
Occasionally, I'd say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they. We're not focusing on the past.
Right.
Right.
We're focusing on a union with God.
Okay.
And occasionally we'll hear those stories, and then of course with the children and everything, and all of the combined and blended marriages and everything, they will share those stories, and there's been some pretty interesting ones.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I think, though, one of the unexpected challenges that people run into, especially those who are maybe like in your case, where this is your first marriage, right?
Right.
Felicia? And so it's for the person entering from a previous union to really get the idea that this is something whole and unique that God
Yeah.
is doing. This is a whole new relationship
Yes.
and that marriage is going to be, it's never happened before.
Yes.
It's going to be created and consecrated on that wedding day.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's something that I think that couples maybe don't necessarily see. And I guess what I'm really getting at is making sure that they're attending to that marriage in its own right and not in light of what's happened before or based on or a reflection
Exactly.
of
And this
anything
is
that
really,
happened before.
if they understand it, this is really freeing them to
Absolutely.
come back into the church in a sacramental relationship with their spouse. Keith, you went through it.
Yes.
Did you go in with any trepidation or being nervous about going into this program when you took it for the day?
It was like, I've got to spend my Saturday. It was a nice day. It was a beautiful day out, and it's like, we have to do this, and we have to do it because, the diocese said we had to before.
And you're talking about coming to Cana 2, not your wedding day.
No.
Well, maybe both.
Well, no, seriously. It was, and Dr. Larry set the tone off right away, and he's very energetic and
Okay.
very upbeat and very interactive with the crowd. So it's
I think it's important for men to hear this testimony that you're giving, because we men can be very reluctant to venturing into something like this because we feel we can handle it on our own. What was the most important thing that you took away from it when you were there that day, if you can recall?
probably a lot of the information on communication.
How
and-
wonderful his wife will be, or is,
Yes.
or what? Yes,
Is.
is.
Yes, will be. Yes. A lot of information on communication. I didn't have children with my previous marriage, so I wasn't blending families. So
Okay.
I didn't really apply. We did do a breakout session with the previous facilitators.
Okay.
So I didn't take part in Chris's seminar.
Okay.
Mini seminar.
When you
But
say,
we've seen it twice
But
a year
we've
since.
yeah, we've seen it twice.
let me ask this question first. You said you didn't have any children from the previous. You have children now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Two.
Okay, wonderful. Boy, girl?
One of each.
Each.
Wonderful. Praise God.
Yeah.
You said you had a breakup with a facilitator. Did they take you one-on-one? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, they took us as a group.
Okay.
Tisha and I went with
Another couple who didn't have children, I should say,
Okay.
to talk about a blended family.
Okay.
And at that point, it was kind of an open table discussion. we could discuss basically anything.
They had thought-provoking questions that they asked us that we discussed, and all those things that are so necessary to get out in the open before marriage.
Exactly.
Some of that was, you know, since then we've added the finance, financial aspect.
And
of
that's
the
got to
thing.
be a huge factor, because you're not dealing with young children, people anymore primarily. You're dealing with people in their late 20s, 30s, and 40s, maybe 50s and 60s, who are coming there, who have already had some stability in their financial area, but now have to learn how to reshare that with another human being.
Yeah.
Not only that, their children that they had from the previous marriage, they want to know how it will affect them.
Yes.
And Lou Paletta is it
Oh yeah, and Catherine.
Jacobs, yes.
Yeah.
Catherine's new to our team, so, but her and Lou work together and talk about all those issues with finances and things you
tax
need to
implications
discuss
and things like that.
and work out with your children in that blended family, because
You know, Felicia, when you talk about that you can see what an important element that is, because I would sense that the spouse who has the children may feel a betrayal to their children if they don't work that out in advance, because they may feel like they're giving it over to another person, and they have the entitlement to it.
frequently the children are the ones who feel betrayed by their mama or daddy, and
Yeah.
that's the children because they haven't chosen this person,
Right.
like the couple has chosen one another. They haven't chosen, and they have no say, and so there are issues that need to be worked out prior to all of that.
Do you have anything during the day that might address that the couples can go back and talk to the children in some type of systematic way of bringing their children to understand why they want to marry and how they're going to work out their finances? Was that ever consideration?
No.
Meaning systematic.
Well, in other words, I guess what I'm saying is that children want to know what's going to happen, and what's going to happen with dad's money or mom's money. And it's not all about the money, but there is that fear that things will change.
Yeah.
And so is that addressed at all? How do it?
No, I don't think it's so much about the kids are asking the money questions as much as the not that they're not thinking about it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
depending
we
on
hate
the
to
age.
talk about money, but that's the reality
Right.
too.
Right. But they want to know how it's going to affect. You know, am I going to get to play sports this year on the club sports, or am I going to? Are we going to be able to do the things we've done in the past?
Okay. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I was being a little.
They're looking for some continuity.
Right.
You
And
know?
I apologize, a little short-sighted in my question, because I was thinking more of the older children.
Sure.
And now I'm realizing we're talking also about
Both.
children
Yeah.
in the home
Right.
too,
Sure.
who will be affected by that, and that's a powerful. It's a powerful question for these young children to ask.
Yeah.
Because they need to know that. That's wonderful. Mark, you went through it,
I did.
and what did you take out of it as one of the most valuable things when you went through it for your time?
You know, for Cammie and I, it was the opportunity that we had really to talk, both before and especially afterwards. We also found it was Chris Fosse's talk on step parenting, stepchildren.
Okay.
You know, it's automatically you become a parent of,
Yes.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's that kind of, you were saying, that kind of relationship or bond that automatically starts. It takes a number of years for that to grow, like anything. It takes time and patience.
Of course.
You know, I think the most helpful illustration that was ever pointed out to me was by a therapist who I was attending a conference on smart marriages.
Okay.
In my role as the diocesan director, and they had talked about, you know, with the biological parent, there's automatically that kind of bond there. Not just biological, but it's also legal, and there's also the lifelong affection that's there.
That's
right. So it's almost this weaving of three different strands, and that, you know, that's pretty unbreakable most of the time. Whereas with the parent who's marrying in, the spouse who's marrying into now this relationship that the biological parent has with their child, the relationship that they have, there's no biological connection.
Right.
There might be some legal, especially if the parent chooses to adopt.
Right.
Really, it's the growth of intimacy, and that's where the child makes the choice on if they really want to create something with the new spouse.
And as you say, that a matter of time.
It is.
Because they have to gain the trust of the children. Not only that, I think of another stumbling block, and many of them would be, is that there's still the ex-spouse in the picture, and there may be that constant tension that the person marrying in has to understand that and be willing to accept that. And so you're really asking a lot of somebody stepping into that role, is not only to minister to the children, but to also be able to step back a little bit when it comes to the relationship of the previous parent in that relationship. Many things they have to consider, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So much more. Yeah.
Some of the new research that's come out is that children who are going between two households, because before there was just the one set of values, they didn't really distinguish between this is mom's values, these are dad's values. And now that they're in two different houses, in a way sometimes it plays out like, well, there's the rules I have at dad's house, and there's the rules I have when I'm with mom, when I'm at home with mom. And the more that the parents, even though they're no longer married, they still have a responsibility to the children. And you know, there are times that it is amicable. It's an amicable situation where both of the parents, and actually all of the parents in this case now that there's a new, you know, when you're entering into a new bond, that all of them are working together for the sake of the children. And you know, it doesn't mean that you're having everyone over for dinner every week, but it's that, you know, you're in communication for the sake of the children, and as best as possible to try to remain consistent between the households.
Yes. So when is your next conference coming? When's your next day that you're going to be putting on?
October 26th
Of 2013.
2013, and then
February
22nd.
22nd of 2014.
2014. So if someone wanted to get hold of you or register for this, what would they do?
They can go online to the website, dioceseofgrandrapids.org, all spelled out, and then go under the resource page for marriage ministry. Or they can also give my office a call as well, and that's posted on the online
just ask
website.
For Mark Mann.
And just ask for Mark Mann. They can call the diocesan number.
Wonderful.
And then we can get them. But the information, but also ask their priest or deacon at their parish. We make sure that brochures are available, registration brochures are available in every parish. And we acted, and typically that's the relationship that the couple is working already. Right, with them to prepare for their marriage. And so it'll be the priest or the deacon that recommends them attending Cana 2.
Felicia and Keith, do you go out at all in your ministry and talk to people on any basis, or maybe go into a parish or encourage people to?
We haven't.
We have not, no. I've had to.
You know, the reason I ask that is because I think it would be a powerful witness to people to hear from a couple who's gone through this, because there's something about relating to somebody who's already been on that journey, and it makes it real. Getting it from a priest or a deacon who haven't experienced it, it's a nice recommendation, but hearing it from somebody like you who's experienced and lived through it, and now you're living that beautiful sacramental life in this marriage, that's a powerful testimony to people who are sitting on the fence, not knowing what to do. So I would encourage you to think about that. I think it might be something that you could look forward to. Now, will the speakers be the same again for all next two conferences?
We believe so.
Okay, so they can look forward to a great day in there.
Oh, absolutely.
And on that, do you have any other upcoming plans for this? I mean, has it been growing? Or has it stayed consistently the same number?
No, well, it fluctuates a little bit.
It fluctuates.
It's usually around 10 to 15 couples.
And as I say grow, I don't want it to grow, don't get me wrong, because that would mean we've had more diversity. But the one question I want to address, and I know not enough time to answer the question, but is there a lack of clarity in many couples coming in about a decree of nullity when they're coming in?
They're usually waiting for
usually at this
their
point
annulment.
they're well aware of what's required.
Frustrated. They're frustrated by it, but they're...
Because I have a sense that we probably have some Catholics out there who are sitting again on the fence because they don't want to go through the process, because they don't understand the process. And the process really is one that frees them to marry again in the church, to receive that sacramental grace in the beautiful sacrament of matrimony. But again, it's a misunderstanding. And so hopefully in some of your conferences, maybe that might be an issue where they could discuss so they can take it, because perhaps those are issues they need to take back and talk about if someone hasn't started that process already. What, is there people? You say there's people come in who haven't started it yet, at times.
Typically, no.
Okay.
Typically, everyone, if there's the need.
Okay.
Because for the marriage to be valid, you have to be free to marry.
Exactly. Exactly.
So.
And how long did the process take for you, for your decree of nullity? You remember?
It was about a year.
Okay.
You know, and I and like Keith, you know, it was that I was really looking for that kind of freedom.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
To
With the time
be
left,
able to
let me
be
ask you
married
this:
again.
what's it like the second time around?
It's great. It is. It's yeah, it's wonderful.
You better say that.
That's right. That's right. You're online. You're on TV here.
Oh, no.
But have you really found that understanding now, this true sacrament, the understanding of marriage is a sacrament?
Yes, yes, it is. And I've always felt that way.
Praise God.
It's, you know, it's just, it is. It's wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful. How about you, Mark?
Oh, very much.
Very much.
We are still blissfully, happily married.
Isn't that wonderful?
And I assume we will remain so.
I would assume so. We'll keep an eye on you.
Yeah.
You know, it really is in God's mercy and in His love that the church has this beautiful ministry that you're putting on, and this beautiful understanding that we can find freedom again in our relationships. And if we're only willing to step out in confidence with God, He'll walk with us. And I think that's what you found, and I think that's what you're bringing to people who are on that journey again, to find their way back into that sacramental life. You know, I want to thank you for all your ministries. It's really a powerful understanding of living for a community and living for the people of God who really need to hear and witness to what you're doing. Continue it, please, because it's so necessary in our church to fill our pews again with these loving couples who can then raise their families, and we can continue to grow our Catholic faith. So thank you for being here this evening. I appreciate you being here. Keith, it's a pleasure having you here. Felicia, it's a pleasure having you. Mark, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight on Catholic Forum, and as always, we give all praise to Jesus Christ in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.